Yay, that was more painless than the last attempt to do stuff like that. So, okay, now that we're recording, I want to introduce myself. My name is Casey Harriet. I'm the R3 coordinator for the state of Oklahoma. I work for ODWC and National Wild Turkey Federation, and R3 stands for Recruitment, Retention, and Reactivation. So, essentially, I create programs and initiatives that increase hunting participation here in Oklahoma. And today I have with me my husband, Jacob Harriet, the game warden for Lincoln County, and we have Michael Harrel here with Surrender Outdoors. Michael's going to be talking a little bit about intro to bow hunting, and then I'm going to switch over for Jacob to talk about the regulations and everything you need to be legal in the field, and then we're going to open it to a Q&A at the end. So if you think of questions you might have as we go through this, just type them in the chat box, and then I will field all those questions for Michael and Jacob at the end of the session. So just when you think about them, type them, and I will ask them all at the end of this the session. So I'm going to hand it over to Michael here to talk a little bit about intro to bow hunting, and also like to hear a little bit about what Surrender Outdoors is.
Hi guys, glad to see you. First off, I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity, and we do have a slow internet connection here at my house. I keep getting a notification, so hopefully it doesn't mute, but I just heard about half of what you just said. So hopefully this works. To tell you a little bit of background about me, I'm originally a Texan, moved to Oklahoma early in high school, and I have been in love with hunting since I was a kid. Even growing up in Dallas, I was always fishing the ditches, crawfish hose, and little local ponds down at the local park, things like that. And so just always had a desire for the outdoors, even though I was born in the city and raised the first few years of my life there. So when we moved to Oklahoma and got in the country, I fell in love with hunting and bow hunting and just being in God's great outdoors. And to tell you a little bit about what Surrender is, we are actually a ministry before we are a TV show. And we put God first in everything that we do. And we are a nationally televised show through Roku and Fire Stick on Gen 7 Outdoors Network. We do the streaming. We found that we get more numbers and it's a lot less money. So we're a low budget ministry and TV show. Are you hearing me? Okay, everything going good? All right. We do air locally in North Texas and Southeastern Oklahoma on a local affiliate, and we have some more affiliates that we're working out some deals with to broadcast in smaller markets in the country. Started Surrender Outdoors in 2012. I actually started my hunting career with Jeff Danker and Buck Ventures Outdoors years ago when those guys first started, and then I worked with Final Descent Outdoors for a couple of years, and just the opportunity for me to share testimony and speak at wild game dinners presented itself, and that's basically how Surrender Outdoors came about. They have asked me to talk about intro to bow hunting, and we can get into more if y'all have questions about me or Surrender or how to watch us or how to keep in contact with us. Of course, you can like us on our Facebook page. We'd love for you to do that anyways, and communicate with you and just send me a message and tell me that you watched this and that's how you met me. So, and maybe we can keep up with each other's deer hunting this year. So an intro to bow hunting, I don't know how experienced any of the people that's on here are. So I'm going to kind of do it exactly how I done it for the NWTF deer hunting conference. We'll go over the basics of the bow, kind of why I use them, and I hope I don't bore you with that. And then we can get into more of bow hunting techniques and things that I do, stuff like that. So we'll start off with the bow setup. Every company, I'll just tell you, every company makes a great bow. As we know, the hunting industry is struggling, so we want to do everything we can to promote the sport and promote hunting of all types, whether it be with the bow, crossbow, recurve, gun, rifle, muzzleloader, slingshot. If they open a season for that, I'm right there. I'm slinging something at them. Time out.
Okay, your audio came back. So start like the last 10 seconds over when you grabbed your bow.
Okay. Your internet connection is unstable. Yeah. So are we good now? Okay. I shoot an obsession bow. Some of you guys may have heard about them. Some of you may not. I was actually the first person in Oklahoma to shoot one. Like I said, nearly all the bows are made the same. They all have risers, limbs, cams. One thing I like about Obsession that makes them different than anybody else is you can customize the color pattern. I actually, 2 years ago, my bow was an American flag paint job. It looked awesome. I wish I still had it. It's probably my favorite bow. I called it Ivanka. It's just a really cool bow, and I killed a big deer with it and a lot of big hogs. But I have to switch every year. I have to shoot their flagship bows. But so anyways, you can get custom colors in Obsession, any color that you want, from your strings to your cams, everything. So you can really deck them out and make them look cool. I shoot an HHA single pin. There are literally hundreds of great sights on the market. The reason why I shoot a single pin is, I don't know if you guys can see that on there. It has one single pin on a post. For me, a multi-pin sight, I tend to not get my left and right as accurate. So with a single pin, I'm more accurate because what I do is, and we'll discuss shot angle later, but this has a post on it with a pin that sets on it. And I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but what I do is I line that post up on the inside of a deer's leg, especially if they're broadside, or I use the inside of the opposite leg if they're quartering away. So that helps me get my left to right exactly where I need it. And the way that these single pins work is I won't go into how you sight them in, but anyways, you can move that sight up or down depending on your yardage. I set mine at 25 and I'm good from 0 to 32 on my bow. I use a drop away rest. Reason why is because less contact, the less effect that you're going to have on the arrow. Probably the most popular rest, am I still going good? Probably the most popular rest on the market is a whisker biscuit, because of they're easy to use, they're easy to set up, and they hold and contain your arrow very well. But you do get a little bit of friction when you shoot. When you're shooting from 0 to 25, in my opinion, that doesn't make that much of a difference. It's when you're shooting out to 40, 50, 60. And I will say I don't shoot at deer at 50 and 60 yards. I just don't do it. For one, I'm filming. I want the best possible footage I can get. And that's just a long shot for anybody. I know we see on TV people taking those kinds of shots all the time, and some of them are very successful. The furthest I've ever shot a deer was at 45 yards. And that was a doe, and I smoked her. And I feel very fortunate because I knew she was alert. I didn't even aim on her. I aimed just below her, and she happened to duck into the arrow perfect. But anyways, that's why I use a drop away rest, so there's less friction, because I want my practice to be perfect at 60 yards. Of course, you got a peep sight. We won't go into anymore. I mean, there's different things, stabilizer stuff that you can put on your bow to make it quieter. But one thing I like about Obsession, they're not the fastest in the world, although they make some really fast models that compete with everybody's, is they are extremely quiet and accurate. So, I don't know the speed at which a deer can jump a string, but since I've been shooting Obsession, I've had a lot of success just because they're so smooth to draw and they're so quiet. So I'll put the bow down. We'll speed through some of this pretty quick. As far as the projectile, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if there's any new bow hunters on here. You have a quiver, and I like to have my quiver on my bow, especially when I'm stalking or they're filming me stalk. I like to use an arrow with a hidden insert. Okay.
Yeah.
So I shoot an arrow that has a hidden insert. I apologize for this happening. This is probably going to happen several more times. We'll get through it. And the reason why is because this allows the broadhead to fit directly against the arrow instead of a collar or a sleeve. That allows for more accuracy. That's a weight forward technology, which allows for your arrow to spin more truer. And so that's what I shoot is an Easton Axis. These are a 5mm. Lots of good arrows on the market though. We still good on sound. Of course, fletchings, you know, I shoot the Blazers. You got to find what will spin your arrow the truest. I use a 3-fletch system. A lot of people use a 4-fletch now. They even alternate them. You know, if my arrows fly good to 60 for practice, I'm happy with them. One of the most important things though that I want to talk to you guys about is with all the new technology and the new rage, and is all about speed of a bow. So you can see on the PowerPoint there, that third, kinetic energy, that's the power potential of your arrow, of how hard it's going to hit and how far it's going to drive through tissue, muscle, bone, hide, all those things. Kinetic energy is very, very important. And a lot of people don't consider that. They, you know, I've shooting some 3D tournaments, and for shooting foam and shooting dots, you can have the fastest bow in the world. It doesn't matter if that arrow goes in an inch or 10 inches on that stuff. But as far as shooting an animal, you want to have good kinetic energy so that you can drive through, especially if you happen to make a marginal shot, which happens a lot. We can't control the deer or what they do at that time of impact and how they react to the sound of your bow or anything else that might happen. The easiest way to figure kinetic energy, you can see there, Google kinetic energy calculator, because unless you're a physicist or a scientist, you're not going to probably be able to follow that formula anyways. It's like a 9-step process to figure it. So just Google it. But here is a chart. So for instance, you shoot a 400 grain arrow at 297 feet per second. That tells you how to figure it, but your kinetic energy you see in the red there is 78 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. That's the best way I can tell you. Go do the calculator thing. I'm from Antlers, Oklahoma, so they didn't teach us too much about kinetic energy or physics or algebra. I was actually watching football film most of the time. So my bow shoots approximately around 70. My bow is around 78, 79 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So if you'll see underneath there what you need to shoot those animals with, you know, medium game, a deer, antelope, you need 25 to 41 foot-pounds. So you can see I'm way above that. I'm not a speed guy. My bow is shooting 289 with a 430 grain setup. So I have plenty of impact to drive through that shoulder if that's where I hit, which is a lot of times where we hit. A lot of times it goes in about that far and it bounces right back out. And those deer never recovered because nothing vital was hit. I'll show you some videos here in just a second of what a good kinetic energy bow and setup will do. I choose the Crimson Talon. Like I said, lots of good broadheads on the market. There's tons of them. The best thing to do is not trust what one person says, is just to get a couple of different kind, even though they're expensive, and test them. I've even had my sponsored brands, and I will say, let me stop right there real quick. And I only shoot what I believe in. I only seek out sponsors and partnerships, relationships with people in the business when that I like, that I bought first, and I use them and I'm successful. So I'm not one of the TV shows that every year has a new partner, new sponsor saying that this is the best product in the world. I don't believe in that. I don't run my business that way. I'm going to shoot or use what makes me most successful in the field. Because in the end, I'm not going to be successful if I don't first, for one, get it on camera and kill it. So I shoot Crimson Talon. Some of you guys may have heard of them. They were a company. Internet connection unstable. Can you still hear me? Still good. They were a company that was open several years ago. They were actually in Walmart, and people think you can't get good broadheads there, but I don't promote Walmart. I promote mom and pop stores and smaller bow shops. So I would suggest give them all your business if you can. Crimson Talon reopened, a new owner, and there's several different types. I'll go through the types real quick. This one that I'm showing you, I don't know how well you can see that. That is a hybrid broadhead. If you notice, that's a fixed blade and it's a mechanical where the blade's open. I don't shoot those. I will throw them at a hog. This is a new broadhead for them out this year. This is a cleaver single bevel. One of the videos I'll show you in a minute, I drive through 2 hogs, right behind the shoulder on one and through the shoulders of another hog. These are 150-pound sows. And this broadhead is 125 grain single bevel, man, and it flies so true. It is, in my opinion, out of all the years I've been hunting, the best broadhead I've ever used. I've shot, no, this one's not it. The other one, this is my second prototype. The other one's it's in my room. I shot that broadhead through a doe at 32 yards and into a tree, dug it out of the tree, hit it with a sharpener, then shot a big boar about 300 pounds through the leg. I hit him low, my bag, because I hit the blind. I went out and retrieved it, hit it 5 times on each side with a sharpener. I had 2 piglets come in. I shot through both them, went out and got it again, hit it with a sharpener. I did all this in the blind. And then I shot the 2 big sows a few hours later that evening with the same broadhead. So that one has been in, the one in the room has been in 6 animals and a tree. So that all attests to the fact that it's a great broadhead, but that's a fixed blade. And then of course we've got just an all out mechanical, and a lot of people like mechanicals. This will open on impact. This one has a bone crushing tip. So anytime you see these little bevels in the tip is what you want. There are some companies out there that's making a tip. I just looked at some the other day. I won't say brands or anything, but the tip is not beveled at the tip. You want that bone crushing tip. So if you hit rib or you hit shoulder, it's going to drive through that bone. Those straight tips just don't tend to do that and get the kind of penetration that you need. But remember, it's all about kinetic energy. So let's move on here. Am I going too fast? Here's a video. Let's see if I can get it to play. I don't know if you can see it with us over to the right, but I shoot through those little tree limbs there. This is the importance of a good broadhead and having the right kinetic energy, being able to drive through that deer's shoulder.
It's a little laggy because I think your internet connection's slow for this.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. We won't, unless you zoom right in here. Oh, you can see it. You shot through. You got the Luminoc on it, so it helped.
Proud to
Yeah.
get him. And boy, he went into some thick stuff.
But you can see that hole
Had to trail him. I mean, the
in
blood
that
trail
deer's
was great.
shoulder, and I shot him with the Crimson Talon G2,
I mean, it opened him up.
which
Blood was
actually
everywhere.
has curved blades and makes it more aerodynamic. But that deer, there was you saw that stump there that I had cut, that tree limb, and had grew some limbs. I actually shot through those limbs and cut 2 or 3 of those. It was kind of a now or never deal. That deer had already looked at me several times. In fact, you see him look at me in the video. But I actually went behind the shoulder and drove it into the opposite shoulder. Still
Lost you on audio again.
whereabouts.
Okay, probably like 5 seconds ago. You're good now.
Did you hear what I said about this broadhead?
That you drove it into the other shoulder, I think is.
Yeah, so I drove it into the other shoulder. That deer went about 60 yards, and and piled up. So just do your research and your own testing. You know, you can walk into a bow shop, and I will say, somebody else could sit right here, another professional hunter or another experienced bow hunter, and they're going to tell you something totally different. But I'm just telling you what works for Michael and why I'm successful, and not in a bragging way. All the deer you see behind me range from 148 to 180, all killed with a bow. I've been very blessed and very successful doing what I do. So this is what I use, and I have faith and confidence in. Here we go with another video. This is the hog vid. I'm going to try to play it, and it'll show the regular version, and it'll show the slow motion version. That's 2 hogs, 1 shot, one about 40 and one about 60. See it go through the white one, and you'll see the other one running off with the arrow right about here. It actually went in that opposite shoulder and back out. That the second hog was actually closer than the first one on recovery.
All come together tonight. I was able to put that Crimson Talon cleaver through this one, and then it went in the shoulder of this one and killed both of them. The first one that I got to pass through went actually a little bit further than what this one did. This one went about 60 yards. This one went about 30. So anyways, that was pretty cool to do that. I knew that they were lined up. So I took the shot, and you know, it's an impressive broadhead. It's a prototype. You guys check out Crimson Talon. Man, $24.99 for a pack of 3. You can't beat them. And don't think they're a cheap broadhead because they're priced that way. You know, you guys go get them and shoot them for yourself. That's a couple of hamburgers. So go buy a $25 pack and try them out, and let me know what you think.
Okay, so that's something else I want to, I mean, you heard me say it. They're not an expensive broadhead. The guy that owns the company wants the price point to be where hunters can afford them. And when you shoot them, you know, you can afford to buy more. Nowadays, broadheads are $50 a pack. And I can just tell you, I will put that broadhead against anybody's on the market. I don't care if you got a tattoo or not. I'll do it. They're awesome. You should try them for the price. I mean, even if it's not your main broadhead, use them for hogs, coyotes, or whatever. So let's talk about practice routines. This is one of the most important aspects of bow hunting is your practice. You know, I know some guys. My title partner doesn't practice at all. He's just really lucky. I get some deer pretty close for him, like 7-yard shots. So he don't have to practice too much when you do that. But practice is very important to me and for me. Always sight in your bow. One of the first things I talk about there is sighting in your bow with your rangefinder. You can step it off. I have yet to meet a guy, a woman, anybody I've shot bows with, whether it be here at the backyard or at a church event I'm at, or I've yet to meet anybody that can step off a perfect 20 yards, perfect 30 yards. Everybody is usually off a little bit. I can't do it, and I've practiced it for years. So rangefinder is one of your most important tools. So not only do I practice with it, when I get in the stand, I range several trees, several spots, and I do that several times. I don't just do it once. So it's kind of ingrained in my memory.
Uh-oh, might be paused out. You're stalled out here. We'll wait for him to come back. If he's gonna
20 yards, but okay.
Rewind 10 seconds or so.
Did y'all hear me about the Buddies rangefinder?
No.
Okay, so make sure you practice with your own rangefinder. not your buddies, not somebody else's, because those range finders can be a foot or so off. Me and my son have two different kind, and ours are about a foot off. I suggest practicing with your broadheads. Broadheads will tear up your target. Buy you a good broadhead target, even if you have to replace it every year. But I would definitely practice with your broadheads after you get sighted in with field tips, because they all fly different. And of course, we won't get into arrow tuning and stuff like that. That gets pretty in depth, but your local pro shop can help you with that. A lot of people don't know that you can not only tune your bow, but you can tune your individual arrow. Some of them just won't tune. I've had dozens of hundreds of arrows, and it seems like when you get a dozen, you seem to get 7 or 8 that fly great with your setup, and there's 3 or 4 that don't. Just save those for a pig or a coyote or something like that. Or I wouldn't even practice with them. I just practice with the ones that fly true for me, because that builds confidence. I would practice from a stand or blind or the ground. However, most people do it standing up. But not many people shoot a deer standing up. I definitely don't. I don't want that extra movement. It's already hard enough to get the bow drawn, which that's the most critical time when bow hunting. It's not like a crossbow. Crossbow, you just simply slightly lift it or you can have it on a bog pot or whatever. We can't do that with a bow. So I would practice setting in your stand or your blind exactly how your hunting situation is. I practice on 3D targets, shooting dots. I've done a video the other day of me sitting here on the back porch shooting, and I shoot a bag target, and only one of my 3 arrows were in that. I don't know what that is, probably a 4-inch circle. The other ones were touching. So as soon as I shoot those, I follow up at 20, 25, 30, and 40 and smoke all the 3D targets. So I would suggest always, you can sight in things like that with your field tips and on a bag target, but always do your last few weeks of practice in my opinion on 3Ds and from the stand. So practice in your environment. If it's hot, get out there and practice. If it's cold, get out there and practice. I like to practice in my hunting clothing. I don't take a whole lot of shots, because when I'm practicing here in southeastern Oklahoma, it's normally really, really hot. But what I'll do is, before I go to the stand, a lot of times is I have a 3D target set up at our lease. I will put on all my clothes as I'm going to the stand, and I'll take a couple of shots. You see there, I put practice at 60 to kill at 40. The further that you practice, the easier that 40-yard shot. Just imagine like shooting 3 points, playing basketball. You sit out there at the 3-point line and shoot and shoot and shoot. When you get up to the free throw line, it makes that shot a little bit easier. So I practice at 60 a lot, even though I'm not going to shoot a deer at 60, but it just makes me really confident at 40. It just makes that target at 40 look really, really big, and of course way bigger at 30. Physical and mental preparedness, bow hunting shape, and what I mean by that, I mean I'm a 5'10", I'm gonna say a half, 5'10" and a half, and I weigh 250 pounds. So I'm a pretty big guy. If you look at me, you'd say that guy's not in the best shape he could be in. But what I mean by bow hunting shape is the muscles that you actually use to draw your bow. You want to be able to not only get to your stand and be able to get in it and not be too out of breath, but you want to be able to multiple. And I don't mean 100. There's guys that say they practice 100 shots a night. I don't. I practice anywhere from 15 to 30 shots every night. And I do that about 2 months prior to season. So that'll just help you develop the muscles, your pull muscles for pulling that bow. Know your limit and your range. A lot of times you hear horror stories, not a lot of times, every year I hear stories of people saying that, you know, he came in, I shot at him 52 yards and I hit him way back. And one of my first questions was that I asked him is do you practice at that far? You know, because to me, if you're going to shoot a deer at 50, you need to be practicing at 7 or 80. And most of the people say, no, I don't practice that far. I practice out to 40. Well, why are you taking a 52-yard shot? So know your limit, know what you're confident in. Confidence is the key. You heard me use the word smoked. I know that's like a TV term. You hear people say I smoked him, but after every shot on my 3D targets, if I hit them bad, I don't say anything. I try to ignore it. But if I hit it good and perfect, I tell myself I smoked. I say it. I smoked it. You know, so that's building confidence. And repetition builds confidence too. You know, so I won't only shoot one arrow at a 3D. I'll usually shoot 3 at a time, and that's what I want to try to do. Is smoke it every time. And the kill mentality, you know, shoot to kill. Don't have any. I would say if you start to think about anything at all during your shot, then you should probably let down. You probably shouldn't take the shot, because when you have a kill mentality, when that deer gets into your range and your comfort zone, there's no thought process. I've heard several people speak on this, and they're telling themselves to pick a spot. I don't tell myself anything. I just practice enough to know when that deer steps into that range and he gets in the body position that I want, which for me is perfectly broadside or slightly quartered away. There's no thought process for me. I mean, I'm not even going through how far is he. You know, I've already determined that as he's coming in, if he's going to stop here. Reading body language is very important. You know, and the only way that you're going to get that experience is time in the field. And that's the great thing about bow hunting is, you know, when we see a deer with a rifle, first thing we do is pull up, put the scope on them and shoot them. With a bow, you're forced to have to watch them and watch what they're doing. And I've even had guys say, man, I can't look at them. I have to wait till they get closer, because they start getting buck fever, start getting nervous. But I think the more you do that, the less that will happen. And the more confidence that you're going to build, and you're going to have that mentality to kill it without knowing it or saying anything. I hope that makes sense to you guys. But like I said, when they step in the range, I already know I got them. So, okay, so that was kind of the first part of it. Do we want to do any kind of questions here, or do we want to just keep rolling?
Let's just keep rolling. And like I said, if they think of anything that they want to ask you along the way, they just need to type it in the chat box, and then I will field it all at the end here. So if you want to unshare your screen here.
Unshare it?
Yeah, so we can get back to. Sorry?
I think you said that was the first part.
Oh, was that the first part?
Yeah, that's just the first part. So
Oh, I'm
here's
sorry.
Yeah, we'll go into advanced bow hunting.
Okay.
Are we good on time?
Actually, probably not, but since this is just a basics bow hunting class, I think if we could get to the regulations, then that'll probably tap us out, since this is only supposed to be about an hour or so. So yeah, let's just save this one for another time, because we're like 40 minutes in right now. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It'd be a good class for a different group of people, I think.
Right.
Because we'll go into regulations for about 10 minutes or so, then we'll open it up to questions
Okay.
at the end. Will you be able to unshare?
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
You are.
There you go. Well, never mind. Still sharing.
You want me to start while he's...
Yeah, you can start right now while he's figuring it out.
Okay,
So-
guys, go ahead.
I need to hit stop share, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
That work?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, guys, my name's Jacob Harriet. I'm the game warden for Lincoln County, it's kind of about 45 minutes east of Oklahoma City. I'm going to go over just kind of the basic, what you need to know regulation wise. I would definitely get you a reg book. They have them online, or you can pick them up at like Walmarts and stuff too. Everything you need to know about hunting legally is in those books. So I'd recommend getting that, looking over it before you go hunt. But hopefully this can give you a little overview. So you want to go deer hunting October 1st. The first thing you got to have is your licenses. So to archery hunt in the state of Oklahoma as a resident, you need a hunting license, which is just your generic hunting license. And then you have to have your deer license, or the slang term is deer tag, but they're actually called deer license. For archery, it's either sex. So you'll buy your hunting license and you'll have one resident archery license. And that's good for either sex, antlered or antlerless. You can harvest those. The limit on deer is 6. So you can shoot 6 does with a bow in Oklahoma, which is awesome, especially if you're just trying to get some meat. You can really stock up with that. So that's your license. That's what you need. Then you have to have permission to go somewhere, of course. If you're hunting public land, great. If you have private land, just make sure you know the landowner, or you just have permission to be there. You don't have to worry about hunter orange during the archery season unless there is a concurring rifle season. So for instance, youth season will open up usually right in the middle of October. So when youth rifle season is going on, you have to wear hunter orange, even if you're on private property. You do not have to wear the full vest and hat. If you're just archery hunting, you just have to have one or the other. So either an orange hat, orange vest, you're in good shape. Don't have to have both if you're just archery hunting. Basically the different types of archery, you have your traditional bows, which is like your recurves and your long bows. Probably the most common is compound bows. They have cams that kind of help with some let off and stuff on those. And then your last one is your crossbows. So all of those are considered archery. So if you have a crossbow, an archery tag is the exact same if you're shooting with a recurve. For your compound bows, you have to have one that pulls at least 30 pounds. So the amount of poundage to pull the string back is 30 pounds. For recurve or traditional bows, it's 40 pounds. And for crossbows, it's 100 pounds. Most of the bows that you would buy these days are going to meet those requirements. I've never had an issue with somebody having a bow that didn't have a high enough poundage. On your broadheads, Michael did a really good job talking about broadheads. The main thing is they need to be sharp and they need to be at least 7/8 of an inch wide. So as long as they're that wide, we say that they are good to, harvest an animal. So 7/8 of an inch. Once again, I've never had an issue with that. Most of your broadheads that you're going to buy are going to meet those requirements. As far as, it's archery season, but you got some coyotes out there too. It is illegal to take a firearm with you while you're archery hunting if that rifle is for hunting. You can have your self-defense weapon like a handgun or something like that. But as far as carrying both a rifle and a bow during archery season, it's illegal. Now, muzzleloader season or rifle season, you can have both your muzzleloader. So say it's muzzleloader season, you can have your muzzleloader and a bow. But during archery season, you can't have any other method of take besides just the bow. Shooting hours is going to be 30 minutes before legal sunrise to 30 minutes after legal sunrise. And you can tell that online. We actually have an app called the Go Outdoor app, and you can get on there and it'll actually tell you the sunrise for your area because it differs across the state where you're at. Say you shoot something, maybe not the best shot, or maybe you just want to get a tracking dog to help you. So legally, you can use a tracking dog to help find your animal. You just need to have that dog on a leash, and you can't have a method of take with you. You're supposed to notify the game warden before you do that. So after you get the animal, if you're on public land or private land, you can field dress those animals in the field, remove the internals and guts and stuff like that. We have lots of issues with people not knowing what to do with the carcass after the fact. So if you're somebody that wants to process that deer yourself, you got it in the field, bring it back home, or maybe you don't. You just bring it back to your house. You clean the deer out. You live in town. What do you do with that carcass now? Do not dump it on the road. We have lots of issues with that, and it really puts a bad taste in everybody's mouth about hunters. So the way the law is written, you're just not supposed to dump it off a public roadway or with it around it'd be a quarter mile of a dwelling or water source. So no creeks, ponds, or rivers, anything like that. If you have private land, you have access to that. If you have an area that you can bury it or put it in a ditch where it's not going to become a problem, your neighbor's dogs aren't going to drive it or drag it up, you can do that. But you can also break that deer down, put it in trash sacks, and put it in your trash service. And that's what I tell a lot of people to do because, and Oklahoma City, big residential areas, you don't have the option to, put that on your property somewhere. So just break it down, bag it up in trash sacks, put it in there. I don't recommend just throwing a whole deer in your dumpster because that's probably going to, cause some alarm with some people. But just bag it out and just be respectful of it. It's pretty easy. I think that's about it. Like I said, your season limit is 6 with archery equipment. Don't take a gun with you, a firearm with you to shoot pigs or coyotes or anything like that. Just archery during archery season. During those gun seasons, go for it. The best way to buy your licenses, you can actually do it online or through our mobile app now, the Go Outdoor mobile app. It saves you from having to go to Walmart. After you harvest your animal, make sure to put your field tag on it. A field tag is not something that we give you. A field tag can be anything as long as it has your name, license number, time, and date of harvest. So what I use is cardboard with some rope, or you can use duct tape and a Sharpie. Once you shoot the animal, the first thing you're supposed to do is put that field tag on it. That field tag needs to remain on the animal until you get it back to the place of consumption or when you check it in. You can check them in on your phone through that mobile app now. So I'm perfectly fine with it. You shoot the animal, you check it in on your phone right there. Just put that confirmation number on the animal. That stays with it till it gets to its place of consumption. You have 24 hours to check in a deer after you harvest it. So if you shoot one in the morning, say you shoot one at 8:30 in the morning, you have till 8:30 the next day to get that animal checked in. But most people just do it right off their phone right when it happens now. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Just make sure you have them checked in. I think that's it. I think we're going to have just enough time to do questions. Just feel free to reach out to your local game warden. Our numbers are also in the reg books and they're online. If you have a question, you're not sure on something, I would way rather talk to you beforehand rather than catch you, screwing up something and then me have to figure out, are you telling me the truth or are you lying to me? Because for whatever reason, people like to lie to game wardens, but it doesn't work good for them. But anyways, yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions. We want you to have a safe, fun hunt, and we want you to be successful in it. That's why we're here. And we want to keep people that are trying to steal those resources away from you, keep them from doing that. But that's it. That's all I got. So I think we can open it up to questions, and anything you got, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, I think we got a statement. Would like to be in for that class on tactics, so the advanced bow hunting tactics. Michael, we could do that. We might plan a time where we could at least do a recording of your presentation if we can't get you back on here before archery season starts. So, because I'd love to offer a more advanced option too. It's just I specialize more in the beginner hunts, the learn to hunt, the basics right now. But I love that there's someone here that would benefit from that. What broadhead did you recommend again?
That's Crimson Talon broadheads.
Cool. And then it says you're allowed to take a handgun for protection during archery or during rifle only.
You can have your sidearm for personal protection. You just can't shoot something with that as in hunting. So if you're walking out into the woods and you see a coyote, you can't pull your gun out and shoot that coyote unless it's like attacking you. It's for self-defense only. It's not for hunting. But you can't have it during the archery season. You can have it during any of the hunting seasons. You just can't use it for hunting. It's for personal protection.
I have a couple questions I started thinking about as you were giving your presentation. What kind of tree stand setup do you like to use? Jacob uses a tree saddle, which is really good for public hunting, since you can't have, you can put a permanent stand there, but it can't be just permanent for that season. But saddle hunting has been like a big fad coming into, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And I find it works really good for public hunting situations. So I'd like to ask Michael what he likes to use.
Yeah, the mobility with saddle hunting is pretty awesome. I don't use a saddle, old knees. I'll be just locked up. Second. I know it was working great the whole time until I started talking. So can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Okay, because I can't hear you at all. Okay, so I use tree stands, of course, ladder stands, lock-ons, ground blinds, but I'm glad that you asked this because recently I have fell in love with box blind hunting from an elevated stand. Reason why, that's what I was going to go into in the advanced part a little bit, is the scent control. You don't have to have them very high either. Those deer seem to pay no attention to them. I have mine, some at 8 foot, some at 10 foot. And I'm hunting in a round roto-molded plastic blind like a kayak. It's called a Crivo Man. And I just seem to be able to get away with a lot, especially with filming. You know, if I'm in a tree and I've got to move the camera arm, I do a lot of self-filming. 90% of what I do is self-filming. So that allows me to move and be able to position the camera where I need to and things like that. So, but yeah, I use all of them. I use everything but the saddle. It's just something I hadn't ventured into just because the vertical climbing now. So I don't even use vertical steps. I actually put a ladder stand up and then a lock on above it. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Oh, it's because I'm muted. Wow,
There
it is
you go.
my fault the whole time.
Yeah,
We were blaming your internet.
yeah.
It says, this kind of leads into, you kind of covered it already, but do you recommend using blinds? So you kind of already touched on that, but maybe.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on, I don't think of it a whole lot because I don't have any public land in my county. If you are hunting on public land, anything you take in and leave there. So if you're putting a tree stand out, you're putting a ground blind out, you're putting a trail camera out, all those need to have your customer ID number on them. So basically you just write it on there with a Sharpie or whatever, something that if we get a complaint on it, we can go out there and say, okay, this is this guy's. We can look you up, say, hey, you know, is this yours? If somebody steals it, it has your number on it and it kind of covers you there. So anything you put in there, you have to do that. Public land, you're not supposed to use any sort of like screw-in steps or anything that damages the trees. And after season, you have 14 days to remove anything you put in there or we confiscate it. So 14 days after the close of the season, which would be January 15th. So that's almost February. You should have plenty of time to get your stuff off there. And it just keeps it, you know, we have a lot of blinds and stuff that people leave out there and we just try to keep the areas from getting trashed up. But that was just something I wanted to cover if you're hunting public land.
Do you talk about it? Nothing can be screwed in or it can, sorry. Okay. Okay, good deal. So yeah, here at our property, we have a blind. We live on 80 acres and we have a blind that stays out. We brush it in. It's been 2 years out there now. You're really supposed to bring him in. Oh, I guess it's been a year. You're really supposed to bring him in the off season because they kind of break down and stuff. It's a pretty nice blind.
Yeah, if you have a baby, they get to stay in the woods for a year. So just run out of time.
Yeah, we new parents here. So, but yeah, that's really handy to use on our property. And then we have some tree stands too, but Jacob will go on his tree saddle on our property. He'll set up a few trees where he just cuts shooting lanes out of, and just shimmies up them no matter what. So it's a lot less work really.
Yeah.
Overall.
And just probably some tips if you guys are new to hunting. Probably the number one thing I could tell you is just play the wind. So you don't want your smell blowing to the animal. You want the animal's smell blowing to you. So say, you know, you're sitting there, you want the wind in your face. You don't want it at your back, basically. And that'll go a long ways as far as getting close and getting in range for shots and stuff like that. But that's probably the number one tip I can give you going into the woods this early season.
What's the name of the tree stand blind?
Crivo Man. KRIVOMAN.
KRIVOMAN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there's a ton of blinds and tree stands out there, and it's like anything else. You can spend as much as you want or as less as you want. You can go to Walmart and pick one up for, you know, $25, or you can, you know, get a real nice one and you pay upwards of $2,000-$3,000 for them. So just, it kind of depends on your situation, your financial status. Of course, the more expensive ones are a lot nicer, and the cheaper ones have their limitations. But lots of options out there.
And you can always just hunt off the ground or bring a chair too. It doesn't have to be super complicated. If you just play the wind, I've done a lot of hunting on public land on the ground before I knew about tree saddles and anything like that. All you had is the ground when you're walking into the place for the first time. A lot of OLAP properties, you just go up there and you look at it and you're like, all right, I see some deer sign over here. I'm going to sit down at this tree. Speaking of deer sign, well, I guess we should talk a little bit about deer sign. You know, there's rubs and there's scrapes. that you can look for preseason scouting, or when you're scouting for stand placement or setting up, you want to definitely look at those thoroughfares where those bucks are rubbing marks on the trees or scraping and having they scrape and pee on corners a lot of times, or like pinch points and corridors. Those are also good places because bucks will revisit that over and over again, different bucks, because it's just like a turf war territory marking.
Yeah, and this early season, usually your deer are really keen on their stomachs, so any good food source is going to be very attractive, and there'll be probably some good trails going to it.
Yeah.
Stuff like early dropping acorns. I know right now a lot of our blackjack trees are dropping acorns. Persimmons, if there's agriculture around, any sort of green field is very attractive to them. So just try to find those food sources and water sources as well. It's hot. If you find a good water hole or something like that, those deer will be using that as well.
And also early season, I know Jacob prefers to hunt during the evening time on early season versus later season morning. Can you guys kind of talk about that a little bit? And I'd like to hear Michael's thoughts on that too.
Well, the main reason I hunt evenings early season, I won't hunt mornings at all for the first 10, 14 days of season, is because those deer are coming to a food source. They're in a summertime pattern, and usually they're bedding close. You might get a couple of trail cam pictures of them at night at the food pile, at your feeder, or on your little food plot. But those deer will be bedded close. And you go in that morning and bust them out, and that one buck you've been watching for 2 months during the velvet season is all of a sudden going to go nocturnal. So it's best to wait and go in about 3 to 4 o'clock, those first several days, and hunt them in the evening. And most bucks that are feeding in the morning at a food site, when they're on a feed pattern, it's summertime pattern, they're going to be back in the evening. They might be 1 to 3 days, some of them every day. The more mature bucks tend to be like on a 3-day pattern, is what I've noticed. I document, that's another thing I was going to talk about, was as far as, I use trail cameras to do a lot of my scouting, actually 90% of my scouting, because I don't scout during season, I scout after, and I do that during shed season. That's when I do the majority of my scouting. But yeah, that's the main reason, is you're going to blow them out if you go in the morning. Access is key too.
Yeah. So just like he was saying, normally they're on that food, or they're bedding, within 100 or 200 yards of it. So to get to that food source in the dark, normally you're going to blow them out. If mornings is the only time you have to hunt, I would back up away from the food and try not to blow that out or push your wind towards it at all. If that's the only time you have to hunt, definitely get out there and give it a go, but might just back away from that food just so you're not spooking stuff out. And in the evenings, it's just they're in their beds, they're coming to food this time of year. That'll change as the pre-rut starts, kind of mid to late October. But right now, the evenings are by far what I would recommend hunting.
Yeah. Is there a time you're not allowed to hunt? Well, yes.
Yeah. So legal hunting hours for deer are 30 minutes before sunrise to 30 minutes after official sunset. So you can't hunt at night. Seems like a lot of people in my county don't understand that. But so basically not at night. And the archery season will go from October 1st to January 15th. So you have all that time in there to hunt. Just be cautious of any, rifle or muzzleloader season where you got to wear that hunter orange. But other than that, you got from October 1st to January 15th daylight hours to get out there and hunt.
That's the beauty of hunting archery, is you get such a longer season than rifle or muzzleloader. And also, if you don't have the setup, or you're thinking about doing this and you're kind of behind on it, your first year crossbow is basically a low power rifle. You don't have to be super savvy with bows to run a crossbow. It is about the most basic, easiest to operate archery equipment out there, where you can be extremely accurate. You just have to make sure you sight it in, but that'll get you from October 1st to January 15th, and you can get a lot of deer in your freezer that way, or bucks on your wall. So
yeah, it's pretty impressive what a crossbow can do, and you definitely still need to practice with it because those bolts are heavy and they drop.
Yes.
So you want to make sure you're sighted in and shoot at different ranges. But if you're somebody that works a lot, doesn't have a lot of time to practice, it's a great option if you're trying to get some meat in the freezer. It really at first I was kind of against it just because it takes away of the skill of archery, but I understand now that, you know, people just want to get out there and hunt, and a crossbow makes it's kind of a gap closer. You know, it gives you a little more opportunity with not as much work going into it.
And we have so many deer. It's not like they were decimated or we saw increase, like crazy numbers increased.
No, we need
crossbows.
more does harvested, and if crossbow is a way to get that in the hands of hunters and get them out in the woods, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Kind of for me, it was difficult. I don't usually hunt with a crossbow, but I was very pregnant. Like my son was born October 14th and I was out there opening day and I had a crossbow, and it was kind of cumbersome to maneuver that in a blind. Just because they're so front heavy. And I mean, it's something you definitely want to practice taking shots or in a blind situation, or when you know, just maneuvering that clunky thing around.
Yeah, definitely just get some practice with it.
Yeah. My biggest failing has been with tuning for a broadhead versus a field tip.
Yeah. And Michael, you probably know better than I do, but a lot of that is sometimes it's not necessarily the broadhead or your arrow. It might be your bow is out of tune. So I would go to your local pro shop and they can get you hooked up. But and it might be you just have to try a different broadhead. I've had some broadheads that they do not tune very well, but there's a lot of people a lot more knowledgeable on that than me.
Yeah, or it could be the arrow itself. Like I said earlier, when you buy a dozen arrows, you're going to get 7 or 8 that are going to fly good. You know, they have a straightness tolerance, but those things also there's a big description in the weight tolerance of them. You know, I weigh my arrows and I never have a full dozen that all weigh the same. And a lot of that's how you flex. You know, you can actually screw a broadhead into your insert, or when you're inserting your broadhead, one thing that a quick, easy fix is to glue your insert in with your broadhead attached so that you can align it with fletchings. You know, there's tons of different things you can do and a lot of people don't know this. You can slightly change your knock or change out your knock. Those knocks aren't consistent either. You know, I've had arrows that didn't fly very good, and I put a different knock on them and they flew great. So.
Yeah, and
lots of tinkering that can be done. Lots of it.
Yeah, and your pro shops will be there to help you with that.
Right.
And I would definitely recommend, I can't stress it enough, make sure you're sighting in those broadheads because they will normally not fly like a field point. I had a friend a few years ago, it was actually a crossbow. He could shoot great, you know, shoot out to 100 yards with it with a field point. He went up to some public land and had deer all over him, but he put his broadheads on. He never shot it before. And he was just lobbing arrows. I mean, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn just because the broadhead being on the front of that bolt, it changed the way it flew so much.
Yeah. And one thing I would suggest too is most people, when they practice with the wind. So not shooting into the wind or not shooting crosswind. So you want to practice all those situations. I do that here in the backyard. I will shoot when the wind is blowing from the south. I will line my target up north to south and practice, and then I'll go move over 30 yards and shoot crosswind just to see how they fly and what they do. And then I do the same thing into the wind. You'll be surprised how different a broadhead will fly in a 15 to 20 mile headwind as opposed to the wind going away from you. It makes all the difference in the world. So it knowing that will just make you more confident in the shot, and you might not actually re-sight your bow in, but what it does is it tells you if I'm shooting into a headwind, I'm shooting a little bit left, so you want to hold a little bit right on that animal. So you don't want to completely change your sight at your setup. You just want to adjust mentally, knowing the conditions and how your bow shoots in those conditions.
It's all good stuff. I'm trying to think of anything else that I would want to know. Camo. So lots of debates on what the best camo is. Do you need camo? Is it more of a motion thing? Do they see you? Do you need to match the colors? Do you just need the pattern? All those questions.
I would definitely say the best camo is just being still. That those animals are going to pick up your movement like crazy. It doesn't matter what camo you wear. Camo is great. I definitely wear camo when I go in, but I think if the option was to sit still or buy really expensive camo, I would just try to hold still.
Right. I agree. I use Treason because they're a partner. It's a great camo company. One of the biggest reasons why I use it is it blends well. But like you said, movement is key. The less movement, the less opportunity that they're going to see you. Being a bow hunter, you have to move, and so you want to conceal as much as possible. Crowd up in a tree, you know. Growing up where I grew up north of Antlers, starting in my bow hunting career early, I was hunting in pine trees. You know, I was using a climber back then, and the deer would never see me until I drew my bow, but I had no cover around me. You know, I was just skylit. So what I started doing was actually cutting cedar limbs to the height that I would climb and putting cedar limbs around me. So that helped with that. But I would just say a good quality camo, most of the stuff you're going to get at Walmart is going to fade. Like Treason, this hoodie right here has probably been washed 200 times. It's never faded. It's never, the color stays the same. So, you know, you get what you pay for and everything in life. So,
I would like to mention, as a newer hunter, it is totally okay to buy Walmart or Academy brand or Redhead from
Right.
Bass Pro. If you're like me, I wash my camo once a year, and maybe I'm gross, but if I'm not worried about it fading after one wash. I wash it pre-season and I treat it, and then I wash my base layers the entire time, and I put my camo back in my tote with my scent cover biscuits. You can get those little biscuits, those little dirt biscuits, or different, you know, flavors, different scents of it, and just keep it in those totes, and it'll marinate that scent, your cover scent on there. So, you know, don't let that discourage you going into it. If you're new and that's all you can afford, that's all you want to invest up front, you will do just fine with some camo Wrangler jeans from Walmart, you know?
Yeah, I can't honestly say that you get what you pay for. I have a lot of Walmart stuff that, I mean, it's almost white now. So if it depends on your
It's
budget.
also 15 years old.
If you can afford better stuff, I would recommend getting better stuff. But if you're on a budget, if you can't wear camo, I've killed a lot of deer not wearing camo.
me too.
Yeah, just, I mean, a flannel shirt, or I mean, anything. This time of year, I've killed shorts and a t-shirt.
Black shirt in a blind.
Yeah. Oh,
You're in a
absolutely.
blind, you don't need it. Just something dark.
Yeah, honestly, if you wear black in a blind, that's probably the best color to wear in a blind.
Yeah. Don't let your clothing be the thing that keeps you out of the woods.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
Right.
get by with a lot. It's
And
just-
also scent cover. My great uncle, he's told me he's put out cigarettes to kill deer before because he knew how to play that wind. So just put in perspective, you can get away with a lot if you're in the right wind.
Yes, the main thing is covering your human scent.
Yep.
Trying to disguise your human scent, cover it, whether it's in the form of smoke or an attractant, or like he said earlier, playing the wind. That's the number one key to success, is the wind, in my opinion. I have to go through a lot to set up my camera equipment. It's you guys have filmed before, so you know it's not a just get in a tree and start hunting. You know, it's a 30-45 minute process, setting up your equipment, getting your second angle ready. And if the wind is wrong and it switches to a bedding area, I'm out. I'm getting down. I'm climbing down. But I want to give this tip real quick, because this is you know what this is? This is a
Is that a
fire.
smoke bomb?
And I have had people make fun of me, and they can continue to make fun of me, but I know what the wind is doing in several situations. That's a smoke bomb. And I can set that on my stand. Now, don't do this when we're in a drought and
Fire.
under a burn ban right now, even though some of y'all are smoking cigarettes. You can do the same thing with a cigarette, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a smoker, but I can watch this colored smoke travel down the creek line, down the wood line, and I can watch where that wind change, where the wind, I can see the wind with that. We can't see wind, but with this, you can. This allows me to watch exactly, because it doesn't matter just what the scent is doing right in your kill zone. What is your scent doing in your scent cone? What is it doing when it goes down to that creek? And
Uh-oh. We lost audio again. I know. he can blow that bucket all he wants at this point.
Yeah.
We still don't have audio on yet. I wanted to before we hear you again, I'll let you know when we can. But Andy asked if you don't mind naming a good spot or two for a beginner to look. I guess that matters where you're at.
Yeah, Andy, what I would recommend to you, I'm not going to give you a spot, but if you go to the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife's website, go to the where to hunt, it'll actually break it down in regions. So I'm in the Northeast region, but depending on where you live, pick that region, and then it'll have a list of the different areas and where they're located. And just get on there and just kind of play around with it. I think all our areas are good for deer just about. So just find one that's really the most convenient for you to go to. And if you want to go explore, go pick a different region and go somewhere else and look around. But just about all of our areas are going to be pretty good deer hunting.
And I cannot stress enough, like when you're public hunting, when you go in, and when you're about tired of like traveling in, go farther, because that sort of stuff will get you more access. Most public land hunters won't put in the effort to go deep into those places. And another recommendation would be look at the aerials beforehand. If you can understand pinch points and travel corridors and water sources, which I have a video on this, but you understanding like valleys and dips and where deer would naturally travel and naturally be funneled into, that will give you a better idea before going on a trek into these woods. Always use aerials to your advantage. Pull up the topography maps, know where the highs and the lows are, where two deer like to travel fence or tree lines. And if there's a big tree line here and a big tree line here, and there's a little connection right there, a lot of times to stay in cover, they will travel that little thoroughfare. So I like to look at it like that. I used to be the technician for OLAP, Oklahoma Land Access Program. And so I got to look at a lot of these properties ahead of time before they were set up. And I would naturally got to see where these deer sign were. And it really kind of helped me to understand how deer traveled. Let's see. Wonder if Mike has a voice now.
Can we hear you yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
There you are.
Yeah, I was just listening and thinking, I'm getting in deer mode. This is getting me fired up.
I know, it's fun.
10 more days.
I think what you were saying, Michael, with the smoke bomb. So I just want to make this clear too. So if you look at your phone and it says south wind, depending on where you're at, that wind might not be blowing straight south. If there's a creek, that creek might pull some of your wind away. So that's where that smoke bomb would come in. Or I also seen people take something like a milkweed seed where they can drop it in the air and let the wind take it. Because just because it's a south wind does not mean that wind is blowing true south where you're at. So you got to kind of terrain and some other things will kind of mess with that as well. And I think that's where you're going with your smoke bomb.
Yeah, I hunt in the mountains, so the wind is never, I can call the weatherman a liar every day. And I can check 10 different weather apps and it's never what they say it's going to be.
Yeah.
Very, very seldom. So, and I like to hunt in a steady wind. We talked about hunting in the evenings. If we're only got a 2 mile per hour wind, I'm probably not going to go because my thermal in the evening is going to be falling straight down to where I want to shoot that deer. So I try to wait till I can get a 10, 12, 10 to 12, 14 mile per hour winds perfect for me, depending on where I'm at.
Before we wrap this up, because we've gone well over, but it's been good conversation that I definitely wanted to touch on. I did want to note that I shared that link for Andy right there for where to hunt the WMAs. You can view OLAP lands, you can view the WMA properties, and then I think there's also Corps of Engineer land. If you're there's a lot of Corps of Engineer land in the eastern side of Oklahoma.
Okay.
What app would you recommend to mark your trees if you use them? Awesome, thank you. Onyx, but you got to pay.
That's what I use is Onyx.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Onyx, but you have to pay for it. There's some free apps out there that are GPS coordinated where you can mark them on there.
So I'm going to type you can view our WMAs and our OLAP properties on this app called Explorer for ArcGIS. It's free. You'll just have to hit continue without signing in and then click search for OLAP or ODWC WMA. And you can click on those polygons or the property images. You can add markups. It'll give you directions straight to that place. So like Apple Maps directions straight to the property, the parking area, etc. So I recommend that if you want something free and if you're going to be hunting public land, that's a really awesome resource for you, and you don't have to pay into Onyx or Hunt Stand or any of the other places so far, and that'll get you a good place to start. Here it is, Explorer for ArcGIS. It's a little green icon with an arrow, and that should have it. I'm in Bixby area. Much appreciated. Awesome. Yeah, have a great season. If you harvest a deer, or if you have any questions, always email me. I would love to see the photos. If you have any questions, I can either answer them or find someone. If I don't know the answer, I can find someone that does, because we want you guys to succeed. That's why we have these classes. That's why we will continue to have classes